so, state brings in new forms of track and trace. In comes the tracking systems.
As to what it was deemed as security and safety. These two words mean death and destruction with the added flavors of enslavement and torture. That is classified as the code word or the formula for the controlling powers that are running the financial systems of the world. The formula is safety plus security equals mass control with destruction. After the great market collapse of 2008, the reset SSA. We didn't know back then, and so we do know now, the amount of independent businesses that collapsed in the wake of that fiasco. And that was one of the biggest setbacks any market has experienced in the history of recorded financial sectors. They were disturbing times for the collapsing businesses, but definitely not for the licensed thugs.
When the market collapse happened and the governments pumped the money back into the financial system to keep the society afloat.
By the way, that money was the money of the people that they have looted via taxes and penalties. These world's largest corporate banks came in and took the money as bonuses by using their financial prowess that we can explore later, as that requires a decade of pure writing to uncover their fancy evil masks. The entire strategy was to make the richest people even more rich. This war of push and pull is never ending. Banks versus the people. Financial powers were totally shifted from individuals to the banks. That market collapse caused the independent businesses to go completely bust and get under the system of credit loans designed by the banks to put them under their control. That is called repossession due to non-payment. The events kept on unfolding rapidly as we dived in further through the following years. After the recession and humanity somewhat trying to recover from the aftermath of the turmoil created by the banks, and they own your government.
The great chapter from the new book/movie/season started. Now, let's fast forward the scene to 2020. Earlier in the year of 2020, we had the serious scare of another global war that can be easily labeled as World War III.
To understand what it is exactly, we need to know the mechanism of the whole fiasco in precision first. So, if you may ask, what do the wars do? Wars create hunger, poverty, and death. Only so that the power is then shifted to the most powerful groups. Now here we have to understand as well that the so-called power in itself is an illusion. When the power is shifted from being the independent human beings to the dependent ones with reliance on the corporation/governing authorities, that creates nothing but pure dependency on the aid giver, such as the United Nations, the WHO, the UNICEF, the CDC, the FDA, the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. By the way, we all know that they aren't as powerful as media projects that they are. And who are the basic ingredients of the society? Human beings, right? So humans create nations/societies. So it's the human beings that make up the nations and societies. They are then forced to bow down to the money-giving bodies. That also forces the entire nations to think that their sustenance is coming from the governments and the NGOs. Without these authorities, they cannot get their necessary life supplies. But this sinister plan has been in front of our eyes since the dawn of time. All we have to do is to just look at the bigger picture and the image will be clear. Governments and NGOs that are paid by the same forces who fund wars, and those poor souls that are in the front lines of these wars are getting killed on the battlefields for not much profitable returns. You can take a trip at the army barracks or have a chat with the homeless people. You will see the truth. The largest number of homeless people are the war veterans, ex-armed forces personnel, etc. So yeah, the Great Scare of the World War III happened in the early 2020. The world kind of fought back through social media though. So they, the banks and their cronies, had to realign their counter plans to tackle the mass opposition from common people or the plebs. They needed to get in there somehow to stick to the initial plans to create hunger, poverty, and scarcity, and take financial control off from the independent people and businesses. They have been planning on creating global control over people for years. Slowly but gradually, they have come closer ever since the dawn of modern technology. They needed a master plan to hit the world at the same time with a made-up lie to orchestrate their filthy plan. Something has to come from a place where it was all tried and tested. Get the media to fuel it and spread it across the globe. To form a hoax and also a blame was needed to be placed on someone. They chose the country, China, that has tried and tested successfully the mass control mediums. You see where it is going? They took the already functional formula and model from China, and with careful planning between the Chinese government and the United Nations, including NATO and other countries, they applied it to almost each and every country under the control of the United Nations. Something has to be created to make people fear for their lives, so that they can look towards government as their savior and messiah. Remember the false messiah and the system?
Just so that these governments and the system can help solve the problems.